Welcome to our latest clicker training video. This video is designed to teach you all about shaping behaviors and then putting them on cue. Shaping is a great way to teach all kinds of behaviors to dogs and other animals too. You will see how to build behaviors from the ground up, one step at a time. You'll also learn how and when to add a cue, so your dog learns to perform the behavior reliably each time you ask her to do it. When you begin shaping behaviors, a wonderful training partnership develops between you and your pet. While you are selecting desirable behaviors to reinforce, she is thinking about what to do to cause you to click and treat. You and your pet will really enjoy this training process, and you'll be surprised how quickly you can teach new skills this way. Speaking of training partners, you may already recognize some of our Bow Wow veterans. Charlotte, the dear old matriarch with Possum and Echo along for the ride. Jem, the sassy cattle dog. Goliath, the tasty little snack. And Hanya, the canine fruit bat. And please welcome our new Bow Wow family members, Taipei and Willoughby. Let's get started by doing a quick review of the clicker training process. Clicker training is a positive reinforcement teaching technique. By reinforcing a desired behavior each time a dog offers it, we're able to build and strengthen that behavior over time. Here you see Virginia shaping Willoughby to go into a tote bag. With a little more practice, she'll be getting her whole body into it. During the teaching process, the clicker acts as a behavior marker. We click at the exact moment a desired behavior occurs. Each click is followed by a reinforcer, such as a treat or a toy.
Go lay down.
The click tells the animal, yes, I like that behavior. And now you'll get rewarded for it.
Good job.
Good timing and treat handling are important mechanical skills for a trainer to have. With a little practice, these skills are easy to develop and improve. If you're new to clicker training, begin by practicing these skills without your dog at first. Once you're confident handling the clicker and treats, you'll be able to work more effectively in real-life training sessions. Here's one idea for practicing your clicker timing. Toss a tennis ball in the air and be ready to click the instant the ball hits the floor. If possible, have a training assistant toss the ball for you and then give you feedback about your timing. Or you can videotape yourself and watch the footage afterwards to see how well you did. When your timing is good on that first bounce, continue to click every bounce that follows, which will get progressively harder to do.
Pretty good, girl. Yeah. Excuse me? Woo!
Food delivery. There actually are a few subtle skills involved in delivering food properly. We'll tell you why these skills are important, and also how you can improve them with practice. The most important thing to remember is that your treat hand should remain still until after the click sound is completed. Otherwise, your moving hand will distract the dog, and she'll probably tune out the clicker's message. Notice how Taipei's focus shifts between the hand holding the clicker and the hand that delivers treats. If either hand moved too early, she would become totally distracted from the task. Now watch how distracted Willoughby gets by the treat hand moving before the click. She aborts her piano playing when she sees it.
That's enough, right?
Let's watch this again. this is a very common handler error. There are a few solutions for this. The best one, in our opinion, is to create a strong habit of keeping that hand still until after you've clicked. Another option is to show your dog that random hand movements occur often and have no predictive value about treat delivery. Problem is, you'd have to teach that to every dog you work with, which is not so practical for trainers who work with a lot of dogs. Here's another important point. In addition to the specific behavior you've clicked, all behaviors that occur in the time between the click and the food delivery are being reinforced. Here's an example.
Sit.
Hanya sits when cued, and Virginia clicks this.
Sit.
But before she has a chance to get a treat to her, Hanya jumps up. Technically, both the sit and the jumping up are reinforced by that treat. One solution for this is to have your treat hand pre-loaded with a bunch of treats so you can deliver one very quickly. Just be sure to keep this hand still until after the click, as you see Kristen doing now. Pre-loading your hand can be especially helpful when working with quick-moving toy breeds. Now let's practice treat delivery. Be sure to have your bait bag filled with tiny treats. Set a timer for 30 seconds. Begin with your treat delivery hand in a neutral position, such as at your side or your waist. Now click the clicker once, without moving your treat hand, and then take one treat from your bait bag and put it into a bowl. Return your treat hand to the neutral position. Repeat until the 30 seconds is up. Then count how many treats you've delivered. Try this exercise a few times until you can increase the number of treats delivered.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.
If someone can watch you during this exercise, she can give you feedback about whether or not you were successful at keeping your treat hand from moving until after the click was completed. Videotaping yourself is another useful option. So here's a summary of the important points to remember as you clicker train. Click while the behavior is occurring, and then try to deliver the treat within 1 second after the click. Keep your treat hand still until after the click sound is completed. Quick food delivery minimizes other behaviors that might happen after the click. The click is a promise that the dog will be rewarded, so please deliver a treat each time you click. If you don't think the performance is worthy of a treat, then don't click it. Now we're ready to talk about shaping. This is a powerful tool that allows you to build a behavior step by step, reinforcing small approximations of that behavior until you achieve your final goal. Imagine a staircase where the goal behavior is placed at the top. In this example, the goal is to have a dog sit on top of a box. Each step represents a piece of the behavior. The lowest step is the simplest version, or the very first piece of it. When your dog can easily achieve that first step, you bump up the difficulty just a tiny bit and work on the next step. Little by little, the behavior grows until you reach your goal at the top. The fancy way to describe this process is reinforcing successive approximations. The trainer's job is to break a behavior down into small enough steps so the dog has the best chance to succeed through the shaping process. These steps won't necessarily be the same for every dog. Small, achievable steps translate to frequent reinforcements. This is what keeps the dog happy and motivated to learn new things.
Allô? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Je suis trop petit. Aidez-moi!
If the steps are too big, the dog may not be ready to offer such a level of difficulty right away. And if she isn't able to offer a piece of the behavior, you won't be clicking and treating her often enough. This usually causes the dog to give up on the shaping game because it's not a whole lot of fun receiving no reinforcement.
Thunder.
Shaping is a great technique to use with all kinds of animals, and it's not just for obedience skills and tricks. This greeting behavior was taught to Thunder the cat. Before this, his way of greeting Timber was to bite her. Notice the damage to the right ear. Their owner, Sharon, used shaping to teach gentler greetings, much to Timber's relief.
Go to bed. Tim, get the kitty.
This video's goal is to provide you with clear information about shaping, so you'll feel confident using this technique to teach your chosen animals whatever skills you think are important.
Good job. Good job.
The human shaping game. Before we begin working with our dogs, let's try a people training game first. This game allows you to practice and hone your shaping skills before trying it with your dog. With the click sound as your only communication, you'll learn how to teach behaviors one step at a time. The game also helps you develop an appreciation for what it feels like to be the trainee in the shaping process. To play this game, you'll need two people. One will be the trainer, and one will be the trainee. The trainer will choose a socially acceptable behavior to teach, making sure it's something the trainee is physically capable of doing. The trainer will break the behavior down into small steps, just like we do for our dogs. Here are the basic rules. The trainer may not talk to the trainee. The clicker will be the only communication. After each click, the trainee should receive a real or imaginary treat from the trainer to simulate how we'd work with our dogs. The trainee should feel free to move around and experiment with behaviors. In this demo, Virginia is shaping Kristen to find a hat and then put it on her head backwards. Let's see how it goes. Kristen is a great trainee because she offers plenty of behaviors for Virginia to choose from. She's also experienced at this game and pays close attention to the behaviors being marked by the clicks. When a very similar behavior was taught to a person who had never played this game before, it took 3 minutes and 45 seconds to reach the goal, versus Kristen's time of only 1 minute and 30 seconds. P.S. She rocks. Keep this in mind when you work with dogs too. Initially, a dog that's new to shaping may not be as quick as an experienced one. Let's try another shaping game. Our director, John, will be the trainee this time. Virginia will shape him to squawk like a chicken. Nah, just kidding. The goal behavior is for him to untie and retie his shoe. John never played this game before, but thanks to his willingness to offer behaviors, the frequent clicks guided him to the goal behavior very quickly.
I'll collect for you. That was it. That was great. Quick one.
Offering behaviors. By now, I'm sure you see how important it is for the trainer to break down the behavior into tiny steps. Well, the dog has a job too. It is to offer behaviors. This means the dog is willing to move around and experiment a little to see what will cause you to click. In this scene, Virginia's goal is to get Goliath to touch his nose to the base of the target. Notice how readily he offers behaviors. If your dog has previously been exposed to shaping, then she already knows how to experiment a little. Young pups and dogs with no training experience usually feel quite free to move around as well. Don't worry if this is a new concept for your dog. In her training background, she may have relied on you to help her get started with a new behavior. This is often true with training techniques that use food lures or physical prompts. So let's look at some ways to make a dog more likely to loosen up and experiment with behaviors. Food puzzles. There are many doggy puzzles available at pet stores that can be stuffed with food. They promote independent play and provide mental stimulation. Another benefit is that the dog learns to experiment creatively with behaviors to see how to extract the yummy food as quickly as possible. While some dogs let their tongues do most of the work, others employ their paws in creative ways. One dog may learn to push toys with her nose to get food to drop out, while others toss the toys around to get food out more quickly. We know several dogs who learned, on their own, that dropping toys from the top of a staircase yields lots of treats. As you can see, left to their own devices with a yummy food puzzle, dogs can become very creative. "101 Things to Do with a Prop." Another way to promote creative behavior is a game called 101 Things to Do with a Prop. Choose any prop for this exercise. Be sure it's safe for your dog to interact with, and select something you think she may show an interest in. A cardboard box is a popular choice, but feel free to choose whatever you like. The goal of this game is to see how many different behaviors your dog will display around the prop. We want to show her how much fun it can be to just move around and do a variety of behaviors. So you'll click and treat each behavior once, and then wait for something slightly different to click and treat the next time. Before you begin the game, cut up a good supply of tasty treats and keep the prop out of your dog's view. When you're ready to start, place the prop on the floor near your dog. This new object will only remain novel for a short time, so be ready to click and treat the instant she offers any tiny behavior, like looking briefly at it. Other behaviors may include taking a step toward it or sniffing it. You can count a one-step approach and a two-step approach as unique behaviors. Approaches from different directions count as separate behaviors too.
Ma maman est trop lente avec les gâteries.
The point is to keep up a high rate of reinforcement so the dog learns that any little behavior she offers will be reinforced. If at first the behaviors are pretty similar, just keep clicking and treating. As long as you keep the dog interested in the game, you're bound to see some variability as she continues moving around. Sometimes, after you've clicked a behavior, toss the treat a few feet away. Having to go retrieve it might loosen up a very sedentary dog. Tossing the treat randomly around or into the prop may also yield a novel interaction with it.
Wow, that was great.
Extra tips. If your dog just stares at you pointedly, look at the prop rather than at her. Click and treat any behavior she offers that is not staring at you. Take a step to see if she'll move a little too. Tap the prop a couple of times to get her to notice it. After you've clicked, you can toss the treat on the floor to encourage her to move and loosen up. You could also pre-scent the prop with something interesting, or put a toy inside to encourage the dog to explore it. Try some fur from a neighbor's cat, or a crumpled old hamburger wrapper and close this inside the box. Disclaimer: no fake weasels were harmed during the making of this film.
Okay, Jen, what can you do?
Once your dog has loosened up and is comfortable offering a variety of behaviors, this game has served its purpose. It's your choice if you want to continue playing it at other times. Dogs do seem to enjoy it, and you may see some fun or unusual behaviors crop up during the game that you'd like to specifically teach. If you do play this game more frequently, it's a good idea to put the game on cue, so your dog learns there are only specific times when behavioral variety is the goal. The cue can be verbal or contextual, meaning you might only play the game in a certain room or with a specific prop. Observing natural behaviors. While we need a dog to move a little in order to begin shaping behaviors, it's equally important for you to detect these small movements and behavioral nuances. So let's see how good your eyes are. Watch your dog when she's just doing her own thing around the house. Notice what she does as she explores novel objects. Pay attention to the different behaviors and body movements she uses while playing with a toy or a food puzzle. Notice what behaviors she does when she's excited. Observing natural behaviors is a great way to become familiar with a new animal. For example, let's say you meet someone's pet rat and you'd like to try shaping a behavior with her. However, you don't know much about rats, how they move, or what behaviors come naturally to them. In this footage, you'll see a number of their common behaviors, such as standing up on their hind legs, investigating novel objects, going into dark spaces, climbing, and jumping. On the flip side, we never once see either rat do a handstand. Once you have a better understanding of an animal, you can design a realistic shaping plan for a behavior she's physically capable of doing. Now watch this puppy's behavior. Notice how Willoughby uses her paws, holds the toy in her mouth, jumps, and spins in circles. These are common behaviors she displays in other situations too. So it was easy to build tricks from these natural behaviors, like retrieving toys, spinning in a circle, shaking hands, and playing a toy piano. If you see your own dog tends to do something often, such as using her paws to interact with things, then you might want to choose a simple paw skill as your first shaping exercise. Remember, if your dog has no previous shaping experience, we want to make this first exercise easy and reinforcing for both of you. Another exercise we encourage you to do is to watch your dog when she's just lying down. Pay close attention to the subtle movements she emits, things like ear flicks, eye shifts, and tiny head movements. When you train your eyes to see these subtle movements, you'll be a better shaper as a result. Watch this footage of Jem now and see how many subtle behaviors you can detect. How many different behaviors did you see? Here are the ones we spotted. the most important tip we can give you about shaping is that it's best learned through practice. Although you can learn things by watching experienced shapers, you'll need to practice it yourself in order to become good at it. Head dip. So let's jump in and get started shaping a simple new behavior. In the upcoming demos, you'll see how easy it is to teach a dog, or a horse, to dip her head down. When a dog does this, it often brings to mind the classic Snoopy pose. The head dip can also be extended into other tricks, which we'll discuss later. Okay, let's get started. Begin with your dog in a sit or down position, whichever one is steadier. This way, her other body movements will be minimized, and she'll learn more quickly that it's the head dip that makes you click and treat. This is Taipei's first session. Notice how hectic her behavior is. Virginia won't be able to isolate head dips with all the other movements Taipei is doing. So between filming days, Virginia spent some time just clicking and treating Taipei for steadier sits. Now that Taipei is steadier, Virginia can watch for subtle movement of the head. At first, it might just be a downward glance of the eyes, a twitch to the left or right, or a slight dip. These are very short duration behaviors, so well-timed clicks are important. After the first few clicks for any head movement, Virginia is now clicking tiny downward movements. This session lasted 7 minutes. By her third training session, notice how her head dips have improved.
Good. That was great, honey.
When the dog catches on to the head dipping behavior, start raising your standards gradually. In other words, begin selecting lower head dips to click and treat. Be careful what you click. Sometimes the dog will offer a head dip as well as some other small behavior, like a paw movement. Try to select for clean performances of the head dip only, without other tag-along behaviors. Once you've got a nice, low head dip, you can work on teaching the dog to hold this position longer, instead of bobbing down and up very quickly. To build duration, start delaying the click just briefly. We're going to ignore the really fast down and up head dips now, and instead watch carefully for a tiny pause in the dip. The pause might be as brief as 1 second, but that's worthy of a click and treat. When your dog can easily hold a 1-second head dip at least 80% of the time, then you can raise your standards a little more, until you have the duration you like. Raising your standards. If you're new to shaping, you may be unsure when to raise your standards and expect the dog to give you a better form of the behavior. The rule of thumb is to raise your standards when the dog is about 80% successful at the current shaping level. If you try to raise your standards too soon, your dog will likely fail to meet your new expectations. Since opportunities for reinforcement will be slim, she'll probably abandon the shaping session because it's no fun. On the other hand, if you train too thoroughly at one shaping level, you may cement that level of performance in your dog's mind. Now it'll be harder to raise your standards because you convinced her that the desired behavior was already achieved by reinforcing it to excess. Let's talk about a simple test you can do to assess your dog's success rate. Prior to starting the test, you need to remember what level your dog was performing at during the last training session. We're going to use Goliath's head dip as an example. In his last session, he offered some head dips that went to a level midway down his leg, and quite a few that were lower. In this session, Virginia is going to check his success rate on low head dips. Low means they just about reach paw level. She counts 10 treats into her hand. For each low head dip, Goliath gets a click and a treat. When the performance is subpar, a treat is set aside, and Virginia waits to assess the next behavior he offers. When all 10 treats are gone from her hand, Virginia counts the treats that were set aside. In this case, only 1. The number of treats set aside is subtracted from 10, which is the total number we began with. Next, this amount is divided by 10. The result is a 90% success rate on low head dips. If the result had been less than 80%, Virginia would continue shaping low head dips with Goliath a little longer. Since the result was over 80%, she'll move on to building duration in the next session. Building on the head dip behavior. There are several other skills you can build from this initial head dip. For instance, if the dog is lying down, you can teach her to dip her head so that it rests on the floor or on her paws. The cue might be, go to sleep. Or you might want to teach her to dip her head so that it rests on your lap or in the palm of your hand. Okay, let's move on to another teaching segment. Paw targeting. When a dog, or even a rat, is new to shaping, it can be helpful to use a novel prop because its presence tends to get the animal's attention. You can hone that focus into a specific behavior. It's Liberace! We're going to teach a dog to mark a target with a front paw. As you work with your own dog, you decide how you'd like this behavior to look. Should the dog use her left or right paw, or should both paws be put on the target? In this demo, Virginia defines the mark behavior as either front paw landing on the target. If your dog naturally uses her paws a lot, you'll see some paw efforts very quickly. Other dogs are a bit slower to interact with their paws, so be sure to look for small efforts to reinforce it first.
Il n'y a rien de lent en moi.
Our first demonstration begins with the dog in a down position with a target held close to her front paws. By having the dog lie down, her other body movements are minimized, and it's easier for her to focus on the target. This is Taipei's first training session, and she is quick to offer paw behaviors. With another dog, you may need to click and treat her for just noticing the target at first. You can also move the target a little to get her attention. Watch for any small movements from either paw. If the dog seems to prefer using one paw over the other, focus on that one. After clicking and treating a few paw movements, wait for the paw to touch the target. Then look for more solid paw touches. When the dog is ready for more of a challenge, move the target a small distance away. For each successful mark, the dog earns a click and a treat. Now place it far enough away so the dog needs to get up and move toward it. Continue to click and treat good marks. If you toss the treat away from the target, the dog will be reset to make the next approach. Be variable about where you place the target and gradually increase distance. Refining a behavior. Sometimes a dog will claw the target instead of laying a flat paw on it. This clawing surfaced with Taipei as soon as she stood up to mark the target. Watch as Virginia selects against the excessive clawing, gradually getting more flat paw contact. This is still in Taipei's first training session. In her second session, Taipei is doing more flat paw targeting, but she still needs a bit more practice before Virginia moves on to building duration. Hobo also had a hard time laying his hoof on the target rather than repetitively scraping over the top, because Virginia had accidentally reinforced the scraping behavior earlier. To address this, she first selected for the criterion of weak hoof movements. Once the vigor was taken out of the movement, it was easier to capture a flat hoof contact. Here's another training option for paw targeting. Begin with a fairly large target, placing it on the floor near your dog. Since Wink seems stuck in the down position, Kristen takes a couple of steps to get him up. Be ready to click and treat any accidental paw touches as the dog moves around. Before long, he is intentionally stepping on the target. After a bit more practice, Kristen puts out a medium-sized target. When Wink gets confused temporarily, Kristen just ignores the unwanted behavior. When he's back on track, she continues to click and treat him for correct targeting. Because it's difficult to see Wink's paws, Kristen changes position so she can click more accurately. When the dog is ready for more of a challenge, a small target is introduced. Adding a cue. When a dog can offer a behavior reliably and with ease, as you see Hanya doing now, it's time to begin attaching a cue. Usually, clicker trainers don't add a cue until after the behavior is taught to a satisfactory level. Watch as Virginia goes through the steps for adding a cue to Hanya's mark behavior. First, she decides if a cue will be a verbal signal or a body signal. She gives this new cue just before she expects Hanya to offer the behavior anyway, and clicks and treats her for good performances. This is repeated about 10 times, so the new signal is closely paired with the behavior. That's how Hanya begins to learn the signal and the behavior are connected. The next step is to teach Hanya this behavior is only going to score her a click and a treat when Virginia asks for it. In other words, spontaneous offerings of the behavior will not yield a click and treat anymore.
Mark.
Hanya is allowed to experiment. Virginia ignores any behaviors that are offered spontaneously. When Hanya pauses briefly, she rewards her for waiting by giving the cue, then clicks and treats for a correct performance.
Mark.
The presence of a prop should not be the dog's cue to perform the behavior.
Mark. Mark.
Excellent.
Mark.
After eating a treat, notice how the sight of the target still seems to magnetize Hanya back over to it. Virginia decides to briefly remove the target when Hanya marks off cue, hoping to clarify that off-cue behaviors yield no positive results.
Mark?
By watching patiently for those little pauses, you have the opportunity to teach your dog that waiting for the cue is the wisest thing to do.
Mark?
The cue becomes a green light, letting the dog know that now would be a good time to try that behavior.
Mark?
Once the cue is in place, further training can be done to ensure the behavior is under good stimulus control.
Mark?
Good. That was so good, Hanya.
Stimulus control is just a fancy way to say a behavior has been put on cue and the dog is able to perform it whenever she's asked to. Also, in a training context, she never performs the behavior in the absence of the cue.
Mark?
Let's watch now as Virginia tests Hanya's ability to perform a variety of behaviors, including mark, in the presence of the prop.
Roll over. Sit.
When Hanya makes a mistake,
Down.
Virginia just releases her from the behavior and then tries something else.
Mark?
Hanya is learning to listen carefully to each cue given. She still needs to
Down.
work on discriminating between down and mark. It's as if the target is still magnetizing her toes toward it. Building on this behavior, the mark skill can be turned into a cute trick called Who's the Best, where the dog puts her paw on the toe of your shoe to indicate her favorite person. This is Hanya's first introduction to targeting a shoe instead of a coaster. A quick review is done with a coaster, which is placed near Virginia's shoe. Once the coaster is taken away, the mark cue is given again.
Mark?
A delay in response time is understandable right now because a new target has been introduced.
Mark?
So be patient. Tapping your foot once or twice may help. When the dog makes any paw movement, click and treat. Gradually select better performances.
Mark?
The goal is to have the dog place her paw flat on your shoe
Mark?
and hold it there for a couple of seconds.
Hey, that was great.
Mark?
To name this trick, say the new cue and follow it closely with the old one.
Who's the best? Mark?
Good.
Who's the best? Mark?
Repeat this about 10 times. Next, say the new cue and pause.
Who's the best?
Click and treat if the dog performs correctly. Go back
Who's
to
the
combining
best?
the new and old cues a few more times if the dog hasn't made the connection. Gradually drop the old cue when you see she's recognizing the new one. Building to a higher level. Once you're confident in your shaping skills, you may want to progress to the more challenging skill of back paw targeting. You can glean some ideas for teaching this by watching this quick overview of the steps Hanya went through to learn vertical back paw targeting. Many people also teach back paw targeting for contacts in the sport of agility.
Okay.
Good manners at the door. Shaping is a great way to teach good manners around the house, too. One common problem is misbehavior at the door. Some dogs bark and leap up on the door when they hear the bell, while some try to make a quick escape when the door opens. Others greet visitors by jumping up on them. This next exercise will help you gain better control of your dog by the door, while giving you some more practice shaping behaviors. To begin, select a spot away from your door. This will become the place your dog stays while you open the door to accept deliveries, when you go in and out yourself, or when guests enter. The spot you select is up to you. If you have flooring that changes from your foyer to the adjoining room, say from wood to carpeting, you might pick the spot where the flooring changes. Or you could place a mat away from the door and use this as the dog's location. During this demonstration, Virginia's dogs will learn to station themselves on a carpet runner about 6 feet away from the door.
Good. Very good.
Prior to teaching a new skill, we recommend you write a step-by-step shaping plan first. First, the handler stands near the carpet runner and watches for the dog to orient toward it. The dog moves toward it. Then one paw makes contact with the carpet. 2 paws touch it. All 4 paws touch the carpet. Now the dog remains on the carpet for a couple of seconds. The dog sits on it. The handler now stands a little further from the carpet. The dog moves a few steps to it and then sits there. Gradually, distance is added until the handler can stand at the door and the dog is able to go to the carpet and sit. Finally, the cue is added for this behavior. We use place. If you have more than one dog in your home, begin by training them separately. Once they learn the new cue, have group training sessions. In this demo, you'll see Virginia's first shaping session with Willoughby. Notice how Virginia delivers the treat off the carpet to reset her for another training opportunity.
Yay, good girl.
Now Willoughby sits on the carpet. After 1 or 2 sessions, or whenever your dog is ready for the next level of difficulty, begin to stand further from the carpet. Continue to click and treat the dog for going to the carpet and sitting, as Virginia is doing now in Taipei's second training session. Make sure the dog can go to the carpet no matter what position you're standing in, and no matter if you are facing toward or away from the dog. Now watch Jem's 4th session, where Virginia has added the place cue to this behavior. Jem is doing quite well, even when Virginia stands right near the door. So now it's time to add distractions.
Place. Good job.
Our shaping plan for adding distractions looks like this. First, we'll jiggle the doorknob. Then we'll open the door slightly. Open it more. Then we'll open the door and say hello. We'll knock on the inside of the door. Then we'll knock and open the door. Finally, we'll knock, open the door, and say hello.
Place.
Watch as Jem moves through these steps.
Place. Very nice. Good girl.
girl. Place. Very good. Place. Oops. Place. Okay, Jen, let's try again. Place. Good. Who's there? Excellent. Very good. Place. Okay, let's try again. Place. Good. Hello? Good girl, Jem. That's wonderful. Place. Good. Hello, who's there? Hello? Good girl, Jem. That's great. Good. Good girl. That was wonderful. Okay. Place. Good. Hello, come on in. Good girl, Jem. Excellent. Good girl, that was great. All right.
Now you'll need family and friends to assist with training. First, a person knocks on the outside of the door. Then the person knocks and the handler opens the door. Next, the person knocks, the handler opens the door, and greetings are exchanged. Finally, the person knocks, greets owner, and steps inside.
Ooh, place. Good.
Continue to practice these steps, one at a time, clicking and treating good performances.
Okay, again. Place. Good.
Naturally, the dog will make a mistake sometimes.
Again.
When this happens, your assistant will know to wait patiently, and you can just try again. Notice how Virginia handles situations when Jem makes a mistake.
Place. Good. Hello, who's there? Good girl.
But
That was
please remember,
great.
if the dog keeps failing at a certain step, you'll need to backtrack a little to help her achieve success.
Good girl. Hello, who's there? Oh, hi. Good girl, Jem. Very good.
This behavior requires numerous training sessions before it's really solid.
Excellent.
Recruiting assistants to act as the visitor will speed up the process. And please remember that each animal is unique and learns at a different pace. As long as you see progress in each training session, you're on the right track.
Place. Okay, let's try again. Good. Place. Good. Hi, come on in. Whoops, place. Can you sit? Good girl. How you doing? Good girl, Jem. That's very good. Look, it's Kristen. Yeah.
Pizza delivery.
Yay. Here you go. Thank you.
We're confident you'll find it's well worth the training effort because this skill is so useful. Thanks for joining us to learn more about shaping behaviors and adding cues. Remember, practice makes perfect, so don't be shy about trying to shape new skills. Those sessions are a great learning experience for you and your dog. The more practice you have, the more proficient a shaper you'll become. And as your dog gains more experience in these training sessions, his learning rate will accelerate. One final thought. If you ever have the chance to work with other animals in addition to dogs, go for it. Shaping is a fabulous way to teach skills to all types of animals. Your cats, rats, bunnies, ferrets, and horses will love it too.
And it works great with kids and spouses, too.
Whoops, did I say that out loud? Happy training!
I'm sitting going, my lips are going.
Look, it's moving.
Oi.
Yeah. He's actually moving.
It moved.
You're making me laugh.
So how are you talking about honey? What's in it for me? Maybe I'll give me a treat. I got $1.